Hello there, and welcome to Find Your Voice. My name is Joe Crammond, and I'm the host of today's show. Today, we have a very special guest, James Forrester. He's a property expert, property developer, a business owner, and founder of BF Property Group. Hi, James. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very well, Joe. Yourself?
Not too bad, thank you. Whereabouts are you based?
So currently I'm in Birmingham. So the BF Property Group, we're across the West Midlands. But I also have another property group, which is a development company based in Birmingham and Newcastle upon Tyne.
Ah, wonderful. Do you have any property portfolio based in the southwest? Because that's where I'm situated in Devon. It's a
Uh, I,
good
try,
place to
I, try,
invest.
I try not to upset the councils. They don't like second hand owners in Devon and Cornwall, I believe.
Well, yeah, there's always been a bit of a thing about that, but now fair enough. Well, it's wonderful to have you on the show, and just for our audience, what we're going to do with James is go through a few quick fire questions, get to know a little bit more about him, about his business, and get some insights from his expertise. And yeah, James, when you're ready, we'll get going.
Yep, absolutely. Ready for your questions.
Perfect. Okay, so if you had a business card, what would it say?
Oh, good question. Name and number would effectively, if you had to put something on it, would be give me a call to find out more.
Okay, well, that's straightforward. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so why on paper should you have never been successful?
I'm not academic at all, so I never concentrated at school. I thought I was going to play football as a young boy, as many of us do. And when I came out of it and realised I wasn't going to play football, I didn't know what I wanted to do. At 16 years old, you're stuck really. You've sort of wasted your school career, and there's not many opportunities for you out there. So I shouldn't have been successful based on my laziness.
No, that's fair enough. That's very honest of you. So, what was the turning point?
The big turning point for me was having my son at 22 years old, and I'd moved to Spain, so I was actually living in a different country at the time. And living in Spain, there's no support, there's no help. If you don't have a job, you are
Mm.
getting on that plane back home. And so, I grafted very little. I grafted as much as I could do, but once I had my son and I couldn't afford nappies for him, that was a real changing point in my life to go, I'm not going to be coming back to this position ever again.
Yeah, no, that's of course. No, I can imagine. So, is that where you started your sort of property research? Was in Spain? Was that where you looked into it all?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so I moved to Spain when I was 18 years old. I got into the timeshare element at the very early days. Didn't like it after about 4 months selling timeshare. The morals, just everything was wrong. I went then into another timeshare resort, but to learn how to run the development side and the management fees and how much it costs to actually run a property or development. And did that for a few more years before I actually went into what you would call traditional real estate, actually selling to yourself, a two-bedroom apartment in a new development and you're the owner. And that's when I really started my career going forward from there in Spain. I actually ended up selling, though, in 18 countries around the world in 36 different regions.
Wow, busy guy. Yeah, that's amazing achievement from that sort of a starting point. So that's really interesting. So, if we ask 10 of your old schoolmates about you, then how have they have described you back in those days?
Lazy, idiot, waste of space.
Oh,
Yeah, look, at school, I don't know, I admit I didn't like school, at all. It wasn't about being academic or not. My teachers didn't excite me. They didn't get my attention. I think there's a big relevance that today's youth in schools as well. And I think if you don't
mm,
get people's attention, you switch off. And what I would do is I was the kid who wanted to go and play with a tennis ball, outside in the morning and
yeah, of
constantly
course.
be dragged in, by the scruff of your neck at night time to come back in. And my friends at school were a lot brainier than me, so they were actually going in and doing their homework. I was doing the exact opposite to them, so I wasn't that popular. Let's put it that way.
No, that's fair enough. So, have you found that some more academic school friends, how have they gone on in later life? Have you become, and say, more successful, or how are they looking at things now? Are you still in contact with them?
Not many of them. No, I think once I moved away, that was it. It's very much I
Mm,
wanted to start my own life, and I needed a change in a different direction. There's one of them I still speak to who's been successful in his own right, but the rest I wouldn't know. And being honest, I'm not interested in what they've done. What I care about now is me and my staff and the people around me to make
yeah.
sure we've got that positive environment around us.
Well, if any of them are watching, they might want to talk to you about buying a house or something. That might be quite ironic, really. You might be the guy to go to for sort of development advice. So that'd be
But school friends are weird, aren't they? Because you either got that real close connection with them that you stay with, or it's more about going, oh, do you remember this? And you sort of go, well, I can already remember last week, never mind, 20, 30 years ago,
exactly.
on that point. But yeah, look, I hope they've all done really well, in their own lives and in their careers. Unfortunately, I actually went funny enough, in my school days, I actually was sat next to someone who died in school, and that's probably one of the reasons I
Wow.
didn't like school. And that's why kids are told today not to swing on the back of your chairs. And the reason for that is I was actually sat next to Robert, who unfortunately was a friend of mine at school, who was swinging on the back of his chair, fell off, and passed away due to it.
Oh, such a shame. Well, broke his neck. I'm guessing. Is it something like that? Was it?
Yeah, the impact, and
Yeah,
it's
that's awful.
a thing now that teachers world, they're all told now to tell children to stop doing it, and that's the big reason is for.
Mm,
And I think that's probably one of the things that why I didn't like school. You see something horrible like that at a very young age.
mm.
I didn't really have the attention after that. I always
No,
thought
of course.
you can do better.
Yeah, no, that's a powerful story. No, it's interesting. Well, when was the last time you did something that scared you, James?
So what scared? I'm gonna say what really scared me would have been September last year. Even though I thought I was going to play football at a young age, I was quite athletic. I could do well. Obviously, I found the pub after that. So the athleticism is gone now. But I signed up to do the Great North Run in Newcastle. Obviously, one of
Okay.
the world's most popular half marathon. In September, I did all of 1 or 2 weeks training before it, and do that, and I completed it. But it absolutely scared me to do it. I wasn't in the right shape or really frame of mind to do it. I'd just come back
Mm.
off holiday as well. But I was running for charity, and that's where Mind Over Matter comes in. I wasn't going to let the children down that I was running for the charity for.
How did you place?
Don't know where I placed, but I did it in 3 hours and 8 minutes, which was pretty good for what I've been told for no training. And the person I was running with, who is 10 years younger than me, a lot fitter, plays football twice a week, he finished it in 2 hours and 54 minutes. So I'm quite proud of my achievement when I found that out.
Yeah, it's good that you finished it. I think I'd even struggle. To be
I
fair,
mean,
I'm not
just
much of a
finishing
runner.
it. I just think finishing it is it
Yeah.
was scary to do it, because I knew that you have to put the training in. You are running, what was it, 13.3 miles, and you've got to finish within a certain time. I didn't want to walk, I really wanted to run and do it. And unfortunately, I'm time poor. And I couldn't put the training into it. People can say it's an excuse. Unfortunately, it is an excuse. I am just time poor, but I was not going to not do it. But I thought it was a very scary thing to do if you're not training.
Oh, I can imagine. How much money was raised in the end?
So I did just over £3,500 for the charity.
Wow, that's brilliant. And in total, do you have any idea what was achieved?
Everyone runs for different charities under
Oh, I see. Okay.
under the Great North Run. So I was running just for a very small, specific charity in the northeast. But I think in total they raised over £10,000 between the runners that were running for that particular charity.
No, that's great. It's brilliant, isn't it? They can, people can do something that keeps them fit and motivated, but also can,
And
raise
break you.
money as well. It's
And break you.
and break you. Yeah, exactly. Test your mental strength. So exactly. So when it comes to advice, then what do people mostly seek you out for?
So a lot of people will come to me for property advice. That's my expertise, and also business advice. From running multiple companies. Obviously having staff on all different levels. How to keep that motivation within your workforce. More when things get tough. I'm a very positive person. I will shut away from negativity. I don't want negative people around me, and people will ask for that advice of how you do it politely. Unfortunately, I'm very blunt and upfront, and I'm not scared to upset people. If I think it's right, then unfortunately, you have to do it in business. Not everyone's going to like it, but I do think debate is good, and having different opinions is exciting. But coming in, that's on the business point, and obviously running your teams. But coming into property, especially obviously in England at the moment, if we're talking now, if you read any headlines and people want to get likes on Twitter, and they'll tell you there's going to be price drops of 30, 35%. the whole property market's going to be crashed. Well, they've been saying this for months and months and months. It hasn't appeared.
Mm,
They've been saying this since Brexit, is the honest
mm,
answer. I've been very controversial since the Brexit vote. And I've always said the property market will increase since then, and it has. All my predictions have come correct. And I'm even saying at the moment, you will not see a property crash. I think by the end of the year, you will actually see a little property rise. Not much. So we're not going to see the big jumps of 8, 10, 12% we've been used to. But I think what we will see is property prices on average jump by about 0.5 to 1% by the end of the year. And it'll be interesting. It's the 30s market and the 60s market are the ones to watch out for, because them population of people and them age brackets have really grown since the last decade. And you've got 30s now, the average age to buy a house is 34. So the 30s are really coming on strong. They normally now are settled in their career. They've got a good income coming in. They're either with a partner or a young family, and they're now looking to come out of rented accommodation to buy. And then you've got the 60s, our parents, effectively, who are now looking to downsize. They don't need that big family home that they had anymore. And they might want to help their children get on the ladder. And if they're downsizing, which is what I would call a stage 5 in the property process, then all of a sudden they're freeing up money for themselves, which can help, and especially at a cost of living is obviously we're finding very much at the moment that will help them personally. But at the same time, free up money for their children to be able to get on the property ladder, and that will boost prices slightly.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because you do hear a lot of fear mongering at the moment, and I haven't seen much evidence of it really, to be honest. But what would you say would be your number one tip then for a young family looking to buy? What advice would you say specifically that they should look out for, or the kind of scheme they should go into that's authentic?
No, great question. I think first of all, it's great that someone who's not in the property industry is actually seeing what we see, that we're not seeing the impacts that you read online or in the newspapers that create headlines. But for a first-time buyer, look, my first advice to any first-time buyer and young family is go and see a good mortgage broker first. Before you even start looking, well, first of all, make sure your relationship's solid, because you don't want to buy a house and then split pretty quick afterwards. But go and see a good mortgage broker. Work out your finances. Know exactly what you can afford. It's the first thing you should do. Be comfortable. See what you're able to borrow and what you're comfortable, because just because you might be able to borrow up to £400,000, for example, doesn't mean you're going to want to spend £400,000. So see what you can get. Then you want to sit down and go and talk to a good independent local agent. From them, there's plenty of us around. We're very proud about what we do and the advice that we give. And I do say independent rather than corporate, because we care more. Obviously you're based down in Devon. You'll have a lot of big independent businesses down there. And, it's a very big area to support independence. And I'm very pro-independent. And I just think you want to sit down with them, explain your situation, what you're doing. You have been financially qualified, what your budget might be, but you might not spend it. And work out with them what they'll do. And they'll work out pros and cons with you. They'll sit with you. Right, as a family, what do you need? Where do you need to be from jobs? What are you prepared to travel? And you might hear a few things you don't want to hear, where they might go, well, look, I know you want to be in this area, but your budget's not going to stretch it. So immediately, let's look at some other areas. Do you know this area? No, we're not too sure of it. Okay, well, let's go and have a look. Go and have a look at it at the weekend. See what you think. You might go a little bit further out, but you might get a much better property or more value for your money for what you need as a young family. And I think that's the case. So number one, go and see the mortgage broker straight away. Great independent mortgage brokers. Find out what you can afford. Go and then contact a local agent that is in, you will know typically in the areas that you roughly want to be, and go and sit with them, arrange an appointment with them, be very upfront, and go and sit with them and take in all the advice, and then go and start looking at some properties. But you wait until you find the right one. That is the key. But I can tell you now, if you work with your agent very well, they will look after the buyer. The buyer might not be paying their fees, because it's the seller who pays the fee, but they will work really well with the buyer to make sure that the best outcome is for everybody.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's really good, James. Really appreciate that. Yeah, because I mean, we obviously the age group I'm around, my friends, we all talk about this sort of stuff quite a bit, and people are very hesitant at the moment. I think it's probably just lack of knowledge as well. They're worried about what's going to happen in the market, but also it's having that expertise from a broker, like you say, is the key, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Look, I'm not a mortgage broker, but mortgage rates have been falling, so, you've
Mm,
got fixed rate terms now under 4%, but the base rate by the time this podcast is out, it's probably already gone up to 4.25. It
mm,
would have increased, but you can still get fixed rates in. The key is what are you comparing it to? Because it's like anything, isn't it? If you want to go and buy something in a shop, do you wait and do you buy it now? And if you buy it now, does it happen to go in a sale 3 weeks later and you're a bit disappointed? Or
mm,
has it come out the sale because you didn't take advantage of the offer that was available and it's gone back to a normal price? Well, that's exactly what's happened in the property market. I'm speaking to a lot of people at the moment, and they're going, "Oh, it's costing more." Well, it's
mm,
actually not costing anymore. It's only costing more depending on what you're prepared, what you are looking to. And it's like, well, for last year, well, the beginning of last year, but you might not have been in a financial position to buy last year. So it
mm,
makes no difference. The mortgage rates had to change. We were living on free money in the UK. To me, I do like politics. So the Bank of England to me was sleeping at the wheel. At 0.5% of the base rate for many, many years. It was an emergency measure that after the financial crash of 2008. And while things started to pick up, the rates should have gone back up because you can't run an economy on such low interest rates. It's basic economics. So you've got to look at it now and go, right, well, if you're picking up a mortgage rate now of 4%, for example, you might get fixed for about 5 years, which is possible. There's about 6 lenders out there at the moment who are fighting it out to do this. But if you're comparing this to buying in 2019, well, yes, it will be more expensive. But were you actually
mm,
financially able to buy in 2019? If the answer is no, well, you can't be comparing it to 2019. You've got to be comparing
yes.
it to when you can actually go ahead and you're in the right position financially, mentally, stability to push forward and buy a house. It is going to be the biggest asset that you own in your life.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a lot. Yeah, it needs a bit more thought going into it, and not just an emotional reason. It needs real strategy behind it. Yeah, it's really, really important. James, honestly, it's been a pleasure. I can ask you one more question. So your 20-year-old self, obviously, you've got a man of great experience, is watching the show right now. What would you advise them?
Listen to the elders. I know we always, as young people, I'm a bit older now, so I know when I was 20, I used to go and used to get to, respect your elders and listen to them. And we all know everything as a 20-year-old. We don't have that life experience. That's something I've learned very heavily. I'm
Mm,
42 at the moment, and I've had to learn. So very much soaking the information from the people who have been there, not people who may have say, it may or this could happen. People who physically have been and done what you're wanting to get that advice for. Go and find them and go and take all that information out of them. People love talking about themselves. That's why shows are created, is because people like doing it. But if you can find someone, if you're talking about property and you want to start a business, for example, you're going to come and talk to somebody like me who started it from scratch with nothing, then great. I'm more than happy to go through it. And you will be able to take that sort of information and that knowledge, put it into your ideas, and then you'll be a great success.
mm. Brilliant advice. That's wonderful, James. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Where do we find more about you, James? Where do we, if someone wants to get in contact with you?
Yeah, perfect. I'll give you two companies so you can look at our companies, which is barrowsandforrester.co.uk. That's the estate lettings and property management company across the West Midlands. Or for development, stripepropertygroup.co.uk. They're the student purpose-built student accommodation we build and residential accommodation as well.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, as I say, James, I could talk a lot longer with you, but we're a bit short of time. And yeah, you've offered some wonderful insights and value, especially to people that might be looking to purchase or invest in a property at the moment. So I'm sure they'll be in touch. And just to let the audience know, anyone else who wants to have a chat on this show or be part of the thought journey process with podcast guesting, visit us at podcastguesting.pro. And we'll speak further then. And James, have a wonderful day and really appreciate your time.
Likewise, Joe. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody.
Thanks now. Bye bye.
Cheers.